Sati.
The forbidden island that kills everyone who gets too close, and governments are hiding why. In 1981, a fishing boat drifted too close to a small island in the Bay of Bengal. The two fishermen aboard were found days later, their boat floating empty, their bodies pierced with dozens of primitive arrows. No investigation was launched. No arrests were made. And the government of India quietly closed the file, as if those two men had never existed at all. The island is called North Sentinel Island, and for centuries this was hidden from the world, a place where no outsider has ever set foot and survived, where the people who live there have violently rejected every attempt at contact for over 60,000 years, and where governments have drawn an invisible line in the ocean and told the world, do not cross it, do not approach, do not even look too closely. But the real question isn't why the Sentinelese attack. The real question is why the most powerful governments on Earth are perfectly content to let them. Let's go back to the beginning. North Sentinel Island sits in the Andaman Archipelago, a chain of islands stretching between India and Myanmar. It's roughly the size of Manhattan, covered in dense tropical forest, and surrounded by a razor-sharp coral reef that has torn apart the hulls of ships for centuries. The island appears on maps dating back to the 13th century, when Marco Polo described the Andaman Islanders as, and I'm quoting directly, a most brutish and savage race, having heads, eyes, and teeth like those of dogs. He never set foot there, of course. He heard stories, and the stories were enough to keep people away. For hundreds of years, the island existed in a kind of twilight, known but untouched, marked on naval charts with a single warning: hostile natives, do not approach. The British Empire, which colonized the Andaman Islands in 1857 and established the notorious cellular jail on the main island, made several attempts to contact the Sentinelese. In 1880, a British naval officer named Maurice Vidal Portman led an armed expedition onto the island. His men kidnapped 6 Sentinelese people, 2 elderly adults and 4 children. Within days, the 2 elders fell gravely ill and died, almost certainly from exposure to diseases their immune systems had never encountered. Portman, in a decision that historians have struggled to explain as anything other than panic, returned the 4 children to the island with gifts and left. What historians don't tell you is what happened next. After that encounter, the Sentinelese became dramatically more aggressive toward outsiders. It's as if the kidnapping and the deaths that followed became a kind of origin wound, a trauma passed down through generations that hardened into an absolute, unbreakable law. Do not let the outsiders come. Do not let them take us. Kill them before they get close enough to kill us. And for over a century, that is exactly what they have done. In 1974, a National Geographic film crew attempted to make a documentary about the island. They arrived by boat, leaving gifts of coconuts, plastic toys, and a live pig on the beach. The Sentinelese responded with a volley of arrows. One struck the director in the thigh. The crew retreated. The footage they captured, shaky, distant, terrifying, remains some of the only visual evidence of the Sentinelese in existence. In it, you can see figures on the beach, their bodies painted, their bows drawn, their message unmistakable. Through the 1980s and 1990s, the Indian government authorized a series of contact expeditions, led by an anthropologist named Triloknath Pandit. His team would approach by boat, leave coconuts and metal tools on the beach, and retreat. Sometimes the Sentinelese took the gifts. Sometimes they fired arrows. On one extraordinary occasion in 1991, several Sentinelese waded into the shallow water and accepted coconuts directly from Pandit's hands. It was the closest thing to peaceful contact ever recorded. And then, without warning, the encounters turned hostile again. The window, whatever it was, had closed. In 1996, the Indian government officially ended all contact missions. And in 2006, when 2 fishermen were killed after their boat drifted near the island while they slept, likely anchored illegally to fish in the protected waters, the Indian Coast Guard sent a helicopter to recover the bodies. The Sentinelese drove it away with arrows. The bodies were never recovered. The truth was buried for a reason, and that reason has nothing to do with respecting indigenous culture, though that is the official explanation. The deeper truth is far more unsettling. The Sentinelese represent something that modern civilization cannot afford to confront. A people who have survived for an estimated 60,000 years in complete isolation. Their genetic lineage is among the oldest unbroken human lines on Earth. Some researchers believe they are direct descendants of the first wave of humans to migrate out of Africa, a living link to the very origins of our species. Their DNA, their language, their knowledge of medicinal plants and ocean currents, and survival techniques refined over millennia. All of it exists in a sealed vault that no one can open. And here is where this changes everything we thought we knew about why governments enforce the isolation. It is not merely about protecting the Sentinelese from disease, though that danger is devastatingly real. A single common cold virus could annihilate them. It is about what happens if the world learns what their biology contains. Pharmaceutical companies, genetic researchers, military biotech programs, the value of a completely uncontacted genome shaped by 60,000 years of independent evolution is almost beyond calculation. The Indian government knows this. International agencies know this. And the decision was made, quietly and firmly, that the island would remain sealed, not just from missionaries and tourists, but from everyone. The protection order isn't just a cultural preservation measure, it's a containment protocol. In 2018, the world was reminded of this when John Allen Chau, a 26-year-old American missionary, illegally traveled to North Sentinel Island to convert the Sentinelese to Christianity. He paid fishermen to take him close, then paddled a kayak to the shore. On his first approach, the Sentinelese shot arrows at him. He retreated, wrote in his journal that he was terrified but believed God was calling him, and went back the next day. He was killed on the beach. His body was later seen being dragged across the sand. The Indian government attempted to recover his remains, but ultimately abandoned the effort. No charges were brought against the Sentinelese. The fishermen who helped Chau were arrested, and the world briefly paid attention before moving on, but the story didn't end there. What most people don't know is that Chau's death triggered a quiet diplomatic crisis. American officials pressured India for access to the island. India refused. Researchers petitioned for permission to study the island using drones and remote sensing technology. India refused. Every request, from every nation and institution, received the same answer. The island is closed. The people are protected. The subject is not open for discussion. Today, North Sentinel Island sits behind an exclusion zone enforced by the Indian Navy. Ships are prohibited from approaching within 5 nautical miles. Aircraft are rerouted around its airspace. Satellite imagery is the closest most scientists will ever get to studying it. And somewhere in that dense forest, a tribe of perhaps 40 to 200 people, no one knows the exact number, continues to live as humanity lived before agriculture, before metal, before written language, before everything. They are, in the most literal sense, a window into our past. And the world's governments have decided that window must remain shut. What else is being kept from us? What other places? What other peoples? What other secrets have been locked away behind exclusion zones and classified briefings and polite refusals to comment? Next week on Historical Secrets, we're going deep beneath the Vatican, into the archives that even most cardinals are not allowed to enter, where documents that could rewrite the history of Christianity have been sealed for over 400 years. You do not want to miss that one. If this story made you question what you thought you knew, subscribe to this channel right now, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who deserves to know the truth. The past is full of secrets. We're here to dig them up,